A local health department is expecting to receive the COVID-19 vaccine this week. We'll tell you what they're doing to ensure a smooth rollout.
Indiana legislators do not just represent landlords. They represent Hoosier renters too, and those renters deserve to be heard.
Hoosiers at risk of losing their homes thanks to a decision in the hands of state lawmakers. And now one group is working fast to keep thousands of people from getting evicted.
And then WRTV investigates. Many of you reached out to us sharing similar complaints. Why are stimulus checks going into the wrong accounts? And why is one tax preparer company at the center of the mishap?
From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5, streaming now.
Good evening to you at 5 o'clock. Tonight, a potentially dire situation for thousands of Hoosiers, and the outcome hangs in the balance with lawmakers at the Statehouse.
People and households across the state could find themselves evicted and homeless. And this all centers around a controversial move involving the governor and a bill he vetoed. Tonight, WRTV's Stephanie Wade explains what's at stake, the timeline, and the reason one advocacy group is making moves quickly to help.
We are very concerned that an override of SCA 148 would result in increased evictions and homelessness that would negatively impact Hoosiers' public health.
The Hoosier Housing Needs Coalition is worried. Last legislative session, Governor Eric Holcomb vetoed Bill SCA 148 that would overrule any local city ordinance having to do with landlord-tenant relations, saying it was overly broad and prevented almost any type of local control on issues like evictions.
It would expand the process for expedited evictions, allowing less opportunity for negotiation or voluntary relocation and leading to greater homelessness.
It was the only bill the governor vetoed last year and only the second veto of his entire tenure. But discussions of a potential override by the General Assembly this year could happen with almost no prior notice or opportunity for public discussion.
Before the COVID pandemic was upon us, Indiana had a housing affordability problem. Indiana had an eviction problem.
According to eviction data, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, and South Bend are all within the top 20 major cities with the highest eviction filing rates. Indianapolis is second only to New York City in the number of court-ordered evictions.
What we have seen over several recent General Assemblies is only one side being heard, the industry, which has resulted in the passage of legislation which has pushed Indiana's housing laws to be overwhelmingly in the landlord's favor.
Over 2 million Hoosiers rent in our state. That's 3 in 10 households statewide. And eviction makes it much more difficult to find quality housing or receive rental assistance, especially for the most vulnerable.
Since March of 2020, there's been a 102% increase in domestic violence deaths compared to the same time last year. And this directly can be attributed to COVID-19 due to an increase in economic stressors, isolation, alcohol consumption, and firearms.
Doctors also say children's well-being relies on stable housing.
Studies have shown that homelessness and housing insecurity increase the risk for medical problems such as ear infections, respiratory infections, and asthma, scabies, and lice. Much of this risk comes from families being forced into transient living situations, homeless shelters.
These are hardworking Hoosiers. These are responsible Hoosiers that had their livelihoods impacted through no fault of their own. During a national health emergency, it's the wrong time to roll back or restrict local rental protections.
Stephanie Wade, WRTV.
You can learn more about how to get involved at housingforhoosiers.org, and that's with the number 4.
This morning at the Statehouse, about 20 Hoosiers held a small rally calling for Governor Holcomb's power to issue pandemic executive orders to be cut. The rally was organized by a political committee led by former Libertarian candidate for governor Donald Rainwater. They are calling on Republican House Speaker Todd Houston to have the entire House take up a bill that could reduce the governor's public health powers. They say they believe the bill would not get a fair hearing in a legislative committee.
And we don't believe that House Speaker Houston should be deciding what gets heard by the 100 representatives and what does not, because that's one person deciding for everybody.
The bill is being sponsored by Representatives Kurt Nicely of Kosciuszko County and John Jacob of Indianapolis. They were the only two House members who refused to wear masks during the legislature's organization day in November.
More COVID-19 vaccines are heading to central Indiana. The Fishers Health Department just announced just one agency expecting to get them in the next few days. WRTV's Megan Sanctorum spoke with leaders there to find out what they are doing to ensure a smooth rollout and notification process for residents.
COVID-19 vaccines are expected to arrive here at the Fishers Health Department on Thursday. And if you want a vaccine, leaders here want to hear from you. This is an online survey from the Fishers Health Department. Just released today, it's an optional form people can fill out if they want to be notified when they're eligible to get the vaccine. The public health director here says these first doses will continue to be allocated to those identified by the state, including those working in healthcare or medical fields, and first responders like police, EMS, and firefighters. She says the state has not yet identified which groups will be next, so they're trying to get a jump start and take a proactive approach by creating a registry while they wait to learn more.
Because we don't know who's next and we don't know how people will continue to be notified once they get through these employer notifications, we want to have an active process for notifying our residents when the vaccine is available to their group. So this just allows us to have kind of a roster that we can then send an email to that says, hey, you may have missed your notification from the state, or maybe the state's not notifying people at that point, but we have a list that we can then generate that says you may meet criteria for vaccine at this time.
She says it will also help them make sure they can deliver the vaccine to those who qualify but are homebound. They plan to create a standby list as well so they can call people if they have extra doses from missed appointments.
We're ready to get going. We're ready to be part of the solution to getting the vaccine into arms, and we have a lot of willing arms.
The Fishers Health Department hopes to start vaccinating people next week. Working for you, Megan Sanctorum, WRTV.
And we will have a link to that survey for Fishers residents posted in this story on our website at WRTV.com.
Now to the numbers that we hope see come down as more people become vaccinated. But today, the newly reported death number is way up again. The State Health Department reported today that 142 more Hoosiers have died with COVID-19. Those deaths occurred between November 29th and yesterday. The statewide total since March is now nearly 8,300. 3,477 more Hoosiers have tested positive for the virus. Those results recorded between December 23rd and yesterday.
Tonight, WRTV Investigates is digging into complaints about the second round of stimulus checks going into the wrong bank accounts.
To me, it's just so irresponsible. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy to me.
Ashley from Indianapolis filed her taxes with H&R Block last year. She says her stimulus payment wasn't put in her regular checking account. Instead, the IRS sent it to a separate H&R Block account only used in 2019 when she filed her taxes. Ashley called H&R Block, but she couldn't get through.
With the first stimulus, that went to our bank account. So I don't know how this got so mixed up. I mean, it had to be a glitch in the system, but it's a horrible glitch because there's a lot of people that were looking forward to providing food for their family or, keep their light bill on, anything. Like there's a reason why this money is going out to families, and it could be a couple months before some even see it now.
H&R Block says the IRS determines where second stimulus payments were sent, and in some cases, money was sent to a different account than the first payment last spring. H&R Block has processed millions of stimulus payments to customers' bank accounts and onto prepaid MasterCards, and all direct deposits are on the way. The company says if the IRS Get My Payment website displays an account number you do not recognize, call them.
H&R Block's number is 1-800-HR-BLOCK. To get the status of your stimulus payment, this is the website you need to go to. It is irs.gov/EIP.
Well, did you see it? It was subtle, but we did have snow around the state today, very light snow at times. I bring this up. This is the snowiest month of the year. 8.6 typically is what we would see during the month of January. No snow in the forecast in our immediate future. It's about fog tonight. We'll keep our eye on that, especially western half of the state, I think, is where fog potential is greatest. Our visibility is good now as you look straight over Lucas Oil Stadium and then straight overhead. overhead. We've got the stratus clouds that are going nowhere. Temperature down to 32 in Tipton. We only moved 7 degrees this morning from our morning low to afternoon high. It was just 30 to 37. As we go through the evening hours, the clouds are with us. With any breaks in the cloud cover in the western portion of the state, I think that aids the patchy fog development, because with the light winds and clear sky, enough moisture around for that. Temperatures, they're headed into the 20s. Tell you what that means with the fog for tomorrow morning, as well as look ahead toward the weekend coming up.
Still ahead on WRTV, pressure on Pence. The words and tweet from President Trump ahead of a crucial day in the 2020 election.
And who wouldn't like starting off the year as a multi-millionaire? And if you don't win tonight, your hopes are not dashed. The huge jackpots up for grabs this week when the News at 5 continues here on WRTV.
Polls close in less than 2 hours in Georgia, where voters are deciding the fate of power in the U.S. Senate and whether Joe Biden will come into office with Democrats in control of both the House and Senate, or just the House. Both U.S. Senate seats are up for grabs in this runoff election. More than 3 million people, roughly 40% of registered voters, cast early ballots. And for those who waited till today, polls close at 7. Incumbent Republican Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue are facing Democratic challengers Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. None of the candidates achieved the required 50% threshold in November, which led to today's runoff elections. If both Democrats win, they will be tied with Republicans at 50 seats apiece, with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris eventually casting possible tiebreaker votes. ABC will provide live coverage of the Georgia return starting at 10:30 tonight here on WRTV.
Tomorrow there will be a showdown in Washington with Congress set to vote and certify the results of the Electoral College, showing Joe Biden the winner of the November election. Presiding over the certification process will be Vice President Mike Pence. The president and his supporters are pressuring Pence to intervene in the process and challenge the votes in a handful of states.
And I hope Mike Pence comes through for us, I have to tell you. I hope that our great vice president comes through for us. He's a great guy. Of course, if he doesn't come through, I won't like him quite as much.
The president continued the pressure today, tweeting, "The vice president has the power to reject fraudulently chosen electors." But according to the Associated Press, the Constitution does not grant the vice president any such powers. It's up to the House and Senate to voice objections. Here's Scripps political reporter Joe St. John with an explanation of how the process is supposed to play out.
The election may have been in November, but Wednesday technically is when the 2020 election will be officially over, with Congress set to certify the Electoral College vote, which took place last month.
Usually this process doesn't receive a ton of attention, but it is this year because President Trump hasn't conceded the election.
So what should you expect during the Electoral College certification vote? Well, the vote will begin around 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Vice President Mike Pence will preside because he's also president of the Senate. Each state will be called in alphabetical order and the results read out loud. Any member of Congress can object to a result. An objection can only be heard, though, if a senator and a representative put that objection in writing. If that happens, up to a 2-hour debate will begin, followed by a vote.
Now, this is why this process is going to take a while on Wednesday. Over 100 Republicans are expected to object to the results. Each objection takes time, although we don't know how many states Republicans will object to.
Now, the big question, will the Electoral College certification vote change anything? The answer is no. In order to deny President-elect Biden the presidency, a majority in the House and the Senate would have to object. And so far, President Trump doesn't have the votes. The last time an objection like this occurred was by Democrats in 2005, who didn't want George W. Bush to win. The difference, though, is that time Senator John Kerry, who ran against Bush, did not support the effort. This time, President Trump does. Outside the Capitol on Wednesday, thousands of pro-Trump supporters are expected. Security has been heightened in our nation's capital, with the National Guard deployed. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
Now, you heard Joe talk about a bid to challenge the results of the election in select states. Indiana Senator Mike Braun is one of those involved. He and 10 other Republican senators announced over the weekend they will reject electors from what they call disputed states. Braun is among those requesting the creation of a commission to conduct an emergency 10-day audit of election returns, even though election officials in both Democratic and Republican states have legally certified their results. WRTV's Rafael Sanchez reached out to Braun's office via email and did not get a response. But Senator Braun was part of a joint GOP statement issued on Saturday, which in part says, quote, "These are matters worthy of the Congress and entrusted to us to defend. We do not take this action lightly. We are acting not to thwart the democratic process, but rather to protect it," end quote.
And now to your Storm Team 6 forecast with Kevin Gregory. Kevin, we woke up to a little bit of a wintry mix today, and it was quite gloomy all day.
Gray skies are with us for a while, Amanda, and I think I heard you earlier. You went out for a run and noticed some of the flurries around central Indiana. Subtle, but 7 years ago today, nothing subtle about the storm that we have. How's your meteorological memory? Almost a foot of snow in the metro area. We had 30 below wind chill temperatures and over 30 straight hours where temperatures were below zero. That's some Indiana weather. There's the gray of cloud cover. If stratus clouds are your favorite clouds, you're going to be happy. The next couple of days will look like this, not the most uplifting, so you have to be self-motivating before we get some snow, or I mean some sunshine, back into the picture late in the week into the weekend. Temperatures, because of the clouds, have changed very little today, just 7 degrees from morning low to afternoon high. We still sit in between. 34 in Indy now, 32 to the north. Temperatures overnight tonight in the 20s. Fog is nothing more than a cloud basically sitting on the ground, and those tiny little water droplets can freeze on contact with the road, with bridges, with just about anything. So we'll have to watch for some patchy freezing fog overnight as temperatures drop to 27. Model of consistency in the 30s with temperatures the next few days. Friday will be our coldest though, 33 for the high temperature. Average high this time of year is 35 degrees as you look at temperatures tomorrow. With the clouds around and some morning fog, gives way to temperatures in the 30s, about 36 to 38 for the afternoon high temperature. A little cooler to the north, but everybody with clouds. I want to pick up the storyline as we get to tomorrow morning. You'll begin to see in Texas and Oklahoma a storm system develop. The southern track of this storm will keep the major impact south of the Ohio River, but continue with clouds into Indiana. And right now it looks like the snow stays down in Kentucky and portions of Tennessee before it becomes all rain after that to the south. Temperatures Thursday, again dominated by clouds in the mid-30s. There are your high temperatures, which are average for this time of year. As you look at the forecast, it does get a little brighter. We'll break out with some sunshine as we move toward the weekend. 34 Saturday, temperature down to 22 on Sunday morning. That's quite cold. Then we're back Monday and Tuesday with temperatures in the mid-30s. This is it right now. This is the coldest stretch of the year on average, where highs are right at 35 degrees.
Kevin, thank you. It's been quite a while since we've seen numbers that look like these, and at the same time, 2 lottery jackpots worth more than $400 million. The jackpot for tonight's Mega Millions drawing is $432 million. Tomorrow's Powerball jackpot is $410 million. Good Morning America's TJ Holmes today explained why we haven't seen very big jackpots during the pandemic. He said the jackpots have been smaller because not as many people are buying tickets. Jackpots grow when ticket sales go up. You still have time to buy a ticket for tonight's drawing. Cutoff time is 10:44 for the drawing that happens just before 11. Good luck if you choose to play. 2020 closed the curtain on most performance arts groups. They're working hard to make sure this year is different. And that includes a local community theater that performs purely for the love of entertaining you.
Payments, no interest for 12 months.
Many local performing arts groups hope to return to the stage in 2021. We are putting some of those organizations in the spotlight. Footlight Musicals is a community theater on Alabama Street on the near north side of Indianapolis. The organization is a true labor of love. From performers to stagehands to board members, no one gets paid. Footlight President Leslie Lee says that does not impact the level of dedication or talent.
I don't know how many conversations I've had with people, be it their first time here or their 100th time performing here or helping here, and it is really from the bottom of their heart.
In this group of people, we have a wide variety. We have school teachers, we have someone who works in marketing, and then they just get to take that hat off and put on another hat that says, hey, I'm an amazing performer.
Becca Ditar is a pharmacy tech, but with Footlight, she puts on her director and writer hat. She is the creative mind behind an original cabaret called Women of Broadway. It is the theater's first show since shutting down in March due to the pandemic. Brianna Bibbs is part of the ensemble.
Women in Broadway is to just showcase different musical numbers, female numbers in Broadway shows that show that women can be independent and stand alone and don't necessarily have to count on their partner or significant other to make their way in the world. I'm singing a song from The Color Purple and from Sister Act. So 2 big African-American female-driven shows.
Footlight planned on taping and streaming A Woman of Broadway this week, but a cast member tested positive for COVID on Friday. We will let you know when the dates are rescheduled. If you would like to learn more about Footlight Theater, including how you can lend support, go to the WRTV app and click on this story.
All new at 6 p.m. here on WRTV. They never thought this dad and husband would be gone so soon, but it's what led up to his death in a long-term care facility that has a family suing. The WRTV investigation ahead.
And job security. The Indiana workers who are finding out they will go from temporary to full-time this month. Next on the news at 5:30.
Physicians for helping me grow my hair back.